Welcome back to G-1000 YouTube channel. Now in today's video I'm stripping down a YAESU G-1000 rotator from a customer. The customer told me that it was very slow to start up and actually would stall sometimes. I've done the test here and it's very hard to, it starts up but it runs, then it runs and it's a bit lackluster. So I have a theory of what's causing the problem, but I thought I would strip it down in front of the video camera and we shall go from there. So let's turn it upside down, get some bolts out and see what we find inside. It's all a surprise, isn't it? Let's get the thing away from you a bit. See what we're doing. Also, you can see what I'm doing, I should say. Vibrating the... At least the bolts are done up tight, so sometimes they're not. The bearings seem to be very, put these over this side, the bearings did seem a bit dry, which sounds about right. Well, not totally dry, they're not too bad actually. Okay, so that's not too bad. Well, I forgot the hook screwdriver again. You know, I forgot something. I forgot my little hook screwdriver. This is really good for getting the bearings out. When I work in front of the camera, I'm trying to get my new little sign in there as well. I'm going to move the sign. I'll do that instead. Do it lower. There we go. That's better. Okay, let's see if we can put that down a bit more. See if we can get all the bearings out. The bearings look not too bad condition. Well, I'll get the grease off them later on, but husband said it hasn't had it for that long. Well, in relative terms, I can't really actually said. It was a couple of years or something, so yeah. There's that's the bottom set of bearings out. Bearing out of the road, let's lift the top housing off. Actually, the grease in this is still minimalistic but normal for YAESU rotators. Okay, let's get these bearings off. Yeah, the grease is actually, we need to look at that. Grease is still not bad. It's not bad at all actually. I've seen some of these, it's really bad. It's dry, but we'll get these off and we'll do some more investigation. Okay, I might get another rag. I might get some excess grease off and I'll go from there. Oh yeah, it's just so we can just get some of this excess grease off for starters. So we haven't got it going everywhere. Alrighty, okay. Back on the road. Alrighty. Okay, let's check the bracket wasn't broken really on the potentiometer. Okay, let's get these bolts out. Sometimes these are actually loose, these ones, but these are actually nice and tight. Actually, these are about the tightest I've seen some for a long while. Now this rotator has never been pulled down or serviced, so this is showing things. So actually, the whole motor it hasn't had much use, I don't think, because there's only a very small amount of rust on the bottom of that there. So, okay, let's get around again. I should have undone these first. I might actually get these off now. I'm going to get this out of the road, so I might also get these out of the road now. should have done it before. Makes it just a bit easier to check things out. So I'll be totally stripping this all down and totally cleaning it up anyway, so which means I'll get rid of this cable tie here. That will be replaced. And I'm going to take out this cable tie as well, so I can get them to come through. And I'll take the screws out of here. So now we bring everything up through the front. To do this, just makes life a little bit easier. They do fit, it's a tight fit, but that's why you got to cut all the cable ties. When it decides to undo. Oh yeah, here we go. Go. Alright, get you. That screw wasn't done up very tight. I'm afraid YAESU has been doing a bit of how do I put that? A bit lackluster in their install, assembly. I think sometimes, because sometimes the screws are tight and sometimes the screws are not. So let's get that out of the road. I'm just going to cut these off just a little bit there. I know what the colours were. Saves a bit of time. On the road. I could unsolder them, but I'm just going to cut them for now. I'm going to rewire anyway, so just get out of the road. Slide these all out of here. Get them all out of the road, and they're ready to be casings, then ready to be cleaned up. I'll get your fingers working, I'll be right. Okay, I'll do it later. This is what the problem is. Okay, we'll get the potentiometer on as well. Gloves. Come on, pick up the screws. Okay. Pod is not tight, which is good. Okay, that's a plus. Okay. Looks like they've actually used. Actually, this is the first I've ever seen green Loctite on those screws coming to hold the motor in on there. So let's see what's going on here. Where are they? Oh, they're loose. Oh, jeez, that was loose. That was not tight at all. Oh, this thing should hammer. Even with these are not good. Oh, that was one little chatter. That's about all you got out of it. Jeez. Oh, okay. My screwdriver. Bendy screwdriver comes in very handy. Just pull it apart. Okay. Being a pest. Brake is slipping one way. Oh, that brake is turning one way. So, okay, but it's allowing backlash. So I forgot to bring my. I'll just check these gears. Yeah, that's all free on there. There's no load here, so they're not jamming up. I'll get that later. I've got to bring the little screwdriver over to get the E-clip out. I have to get this E-clip out. without losing it, hopefully. Like I've got more of these, but one E-clip gone. Nearly lost it. That's definitely in there. Okay, one BK pinion. Okay, that looks alright. Get the BK spring out. Yeah, spring looks in good condition. Not bent or anything. This is a telltale factor, as if this is loose. What I'll do is I'll take it. I'm going to pull it all apart anyway, so just notice. Oh, the motor's loose too. Okay. Motor, actually not the motor itself, the actual RF guard is loose. Felt it rock and roll in my hand. What the hell's going on here? So, okay, so let's get this out. Oh, didn't mean to hit the camera. Alright. Sometimes things can happen to the brake drum. Get it all scored and whatnot, but that's okay. Now, let's see, it is loose. It doesn't seem to be loose. But that is tight. There is no, there's no inflate on that at all. Okay, I'm going to grab the, I might just undo that. Okay, there should be a ever so small amount of infloat in the motor. I'll do a bench test on the motor. We know it's not the gears because the gears are really free flowing, or free spinning I should say, not flowing. And I better get my Allen key, and we'll take that BK butterfly out. There's a lot of oil on this. A lot of oil's come out of the bloody. I wonder if they're actually putting oil itself in the BK in the drum, because that is very, very oily. There's millennium disulfide on the top here, but in here, that's not millennium disulfide, that's oil. Okay. Millennium disulfide is not, well, it's obviously going to, it is an oily salt, but this is like, that is swimming in it. Look at that. Look at that, filling it up with bloody oil. Whoops, dropped the darn thing. That is got so much in there. Wow. Okay, I better get my little Allen key. I always forget something. Let's see how tight this is. Oh man, that is really short. That's a really short one, this one. It's got Loctite on it. I wouldn't say it was super tight. It's got Loctite on it. So it's helpful I get out near the camera here. In front of the camera. I always have a tendency of looking past the camera to what I'm doing. So it's definitely got Loctite in it. That is actually tight on there. I think we might have an issue with this oil. Someone else did mention, had a customer emailed me, and he had some problems, and he said his motor was swimming in oil. I'm going, yeah, well, that's not meant to be. Ready? Okay, we'll look at that later on. After here, seeing that and that oil at the top, because that's got these are bearings on top of there. This is, I think, one of the newer motors. Let's take this off. I don't like the idea this has got that much oil on the top of it. So oil would go straight down inside the motor. That wouldn't be good. Oh, this is the new version. This is the new version motor. Okay, righto. Yeah, because normally the motor is tight. It's tight on this RF shield. Wow, this is really loose. Oh, yeah, it is a new motor, a new version. 37B. Yeah, 37B. It's a new version. Okay, righto. Rightio, I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to mark a few things up, and actually, I'm going to go test this. It seems to spin all right, but there's no end float. But since someone said they had some problems with oil in here, I'm not surprised. There's way too much on here. So okay. Well, I'm going to, nothing's seized up or anything, but I'm going to go and test everything here and get this motor off and get the wiring off so I can actually get this out, and we'll go from there. We'll be back. Okay, we're back. Interesting, very interesting. Let's see if you can actually hear this. I've hooked up to 12 volts, and this motor should spin and be free at 12 volts. Well, I've actually cranked it up to 15, but it is it's trying its damnedest. It's pulsing. It's trying to turn. Look, it's stopping and starting. I can feel it thrusting in my hand. Wow. There's something seriously wrong here. That's at 15. I'll undo that. This is the multi-voltage. That's 24 volts. You shouldn't see that move. Oh, this motor shall be stripped down. And yeah, okay. We'll be back. Back again just for a quick one. This thing has got a lot of oil everywhere. I mean, that there is a lot of oil. I mean, you probably can't see it. It's probably it's just, this is between the motor and it's the motor plate, and this is what's between it. It's like just swimming in oil. That's literally oil all over this. If they're putting oil in the BK brake, that is not good. The grease they used to use in there used to work fine, and now they're putting oil in there, not good. No worries, I just look at that. Now I've wiped it off. It's as shiny as anything. I'll be back. Rightio, after some time getting this apart, I mean, there's 4 tabs you've got to grind off, and I was blowing the crap off, and I noticed there was black coming out of it. Well, I've just popped it apart. I thought I'd show you. The commutator is totally black. It is just black as anything. So I'm going to try and get the whole motor out in one go, because it makes me sort of pull it back in again. Okay, there's only a little bit of moisture inside here, not a lot though. Keep that away from things, but this, oh look at that, my fingers have gone black. Wow. I couldn't see how the brushes come apart either, so these look like they were one-hit wonder by the looks of things. Oh, there they come out. Oh, you've got to assemble it. Oh, that's what you've got to do. You've got to assemble the whole thing in here. Look, it's just black as the ace of spades. Look at the crap in there. Oh my god. That customer of mine wasn't wrong when he said swimming in it. Why would you put that much? You can see where it's been spraying everywhere. Why don't they put a contact grease or something on this? I don't know why you want to do that. Wow. That is ridiculous. And obviously not designed to come apart, because you've got to really get into it and get those tabs off. Trying to get it out and press it out was a right little pain, because you've got to try and push the shaft down. The magnet's going to pull it back all the time. I just hope I haven't damaged the... I'm going to go and do some more blasting with some air and see if there's any more oil comes out there, because I think oil might have run down through this bearing, run down through the wiring, and then run all over this. That's what it looks like to me when it was first put together, because that is just covered in it. That is just shocking. It's like someone just injected oil into the side. Well, I'll be back. Another quick update before my camera battery dies. Yep, I think that's what's caused it. I've been blowing air in here, and there's just oil pumping out of all there's a little spacer just there. Oil is pumping out of there, and now I can visually see under a magnifying glass there's oil pumping out of here, and just keep pumping it out of it. So I'm going to have to strip this all down, because the bearings seem okay, but I'll probably replace them anyway, and I'm going to have to give it a bath. This is ridiculous, all because of obviously these bearings will allow any oil to go straight through, so they've filled up the BK brake system, wherever they filled this up with oil or a grease that was very oily, and it's just run straight through the motor, which then has stuffed up everything. I'm going to have to watch this. That just shows how much oil is in here. I mean, that, and I've been blowing more and more out of this. That is just black. Yuck. Well, I'm going to strip everything down and see how much more crap I get out of this. My battery's about to die anyway, so I'm going to charge this and I'll be back. Okay, I'm just turning this down a bit. I've actually put the motor into... I hope I've got a container that's water fluid proof. I think I'll pick the right one up before I pour it in here. Better make sure. Yep, I think it'll do. Just want to see how much oil comes out of this. This is Digger's grease and wax remover. I use it bloody just at everything. So this is... Look at that, it's changed colour already. And I haven't even really agitated it much. And I blew a lot of this off too as well. I blew a lot of the actual excess off the top and bottom. So, probably hard to... Oh, I might go that way instead. That's just soaking it in there. That has that much oil in it that the Prepsol, or grease and wax remover, has physically just turned a nice colour of burnt oil. So I might as well put everything for a swim in there. That just proves that putting oil in that doesn't help. There's the spring. I wonder where the spring went to. And look at it just pouring out of those things. Now it's black. Gee whiz. Everything's in there. Well, I took the bearings off, so basically I'll have to go and do this again. So there we go. That was a big problem. Okay. But it hasn't been flying down this. It actually is wet here too. You can see it's wet there. It's wet just inside. It's been spraying out all over the place. So it's literally been flying, going down the middle of the windings, because there's not much on the outside at all. Just on the very bottom, it's been flying out. Well, I'm going to carry on. I just picked up the greasy rag. I picked the wrong rag up. Oh well. Such is life. I will put a bit of, get that off my hands. Oh, I'm going to have, oh, a mess. God, I've only got oil that's come out of this. It's just all over my bench. That's all over me as well. I put his gloves off, of course. That was a good move. Not really. Oh, I'm going to carry on. I'll be back. Okay, we're back. Rightio, I have, after given the commutator and motor a bit of a bath, the bearings will be getting replaced. I'm just using them for mock-up at the present moment, but I have polished and cleaned up all the commutator, and everything is now a lot better than it was. Even the colour of the wines has actually changed colour from the crappy colour it was before. So basically, we're up to this. I'm actually now implementing a few little upgrades for this situation. Now, the oil is getting down inside the motor, whether it's from the expelling of the oil or demixing of the oil from the grease, if they use grease, or they'll just use oil. The problem being, the top of these motors, the bearing is pushed in, and then you've got to assemble it this way, which I'll do now. So the motor goes that way. You've got to add the bearing on that way. It doesn't push from the top down, and it goes to little stoppers at the top here. Well, it's part of the way it's pressed. It's on an angle, so it only goes and stuff like this. Back in here again, just to show you. Now, normally, as you can see, I've actually filled this up and I've made a little plastic, it's a flexible washer. Now this is where the problem lies. Since I didn't have the washer there before, that any oil coming down would sit on top of the bearing, and that's about 1.5 mils, maybe 2 mil. So the oil would sit on there in like a ditch. It would then gradually feed through the actual bearing. Now the BK Butterfly doesn't cover it up like in the previous motor, so that's where that would normally sit. So that never really stopped anything getting in down there. So if you look at the original motor, this is the original motor. Okay, by the way, just so you know, there's a difference in the motors. This one's this piece here sits up inside there, so it doesn't really matter. The older motor was longer. The older motor is bigger in diameter because if we grab the old cover, flops around like a loose thing. Where this one, I can't really put it on there. This one's actually tight. It's got the wiring there. So they've changed the motors to this. Now the original motor had bushes, as you can see, brass bush, top and bottom. Now, if any oil would come down and sit on this plate, and it would have to build up a lot to get onto the top of this here to then run down the shaft. Now, if we can see in there, there's not much of a gap to get from there into the shaft, so it's not as big a problem. Nowhere near a bigger problem, because I've seen oil on this before but nothing on there. I mean, you've got to put a small amount of lubrication on the shaft when you assemble these things, but that's all you need to do, because the brass and everything is sort of self-lubricating in a sense. So yeah, if you put a small amount on there, don't just make it swing in it. So that's where these never had the problem, but these have the problem. So they would put, now it looks like they're using oil. They are putting oil in here in the actual BK brake hub, wherever it's drawn to. It's here somewhere. Oh, it's in here, it is here. So they're obviously, when this sits through there like that, they're obviously just putting a bit of oil in there. It is now running straight through, and if you look down in there, it just falls straight into that little, like a saucer, which would fill up on top of the bearing, and the bearing's motion would then drag it down inside, down to the windings, out the bottom, over top of the commie, and we have a major problem. So basically my fix, just drop that. So my fix is to put this, I'll take the motor back out again. Right, you probably can see through there. It's a clear washer I made up, and it's been glued in place. You can't have anything protruding from the top. It would have been nice to just put a braze on or weld on or whatever, a washer to the top of this, but you can't come up any higher. It's got to be totally flat, and it can't be too thick because you'll restrict the bearing movement. So the bearing has got to go into a certain distance, and basically the only way I figured that out at the present moment, and the fix for this at the present moment, was this flexible material I found, which I think is about 1 mil or 1.2 or something. So I cut it out of something. It's like punched out on the outside, punched out in the center. Had a couple of goes at it to get it right. It's not 100% foolproof, but it's going to limit the amount of oil running towards the bearings. I mean, it's not 100%. I mean, I've been thinking of other ways of doing something on the bottom side of here, but you are limiting how, because the butterfly normally goes through here. That's why it's open at the bottom. So this is going to be my temporary fix at the present moment, but I'm not going to be running oil in the bloody thing, so we're not going to have as much a problem. And plus, we should actually put this back in here again. Plus, where the BK butterfly sits, and I've already checked this, like those grub screws, the BK butterfly sits in about that position with only a small amount of gap, about the same gap as with this one. So any oil now has to try and migrate under a moving object, which is going to throw it out. So this is, and it won't be pooling, so it'll be thrown away and it'll rest on this part here. Yes, we may get some inside, but it's not pooling in where this washer is now, and because that would have been thrown away and just would have gone straight down through the bearing. So, which is what has been happening. When you look at the way the oil was all down through the motor and everything. So this is my fix for these, and that's what we're going to have to try and do. Bearing motor is going to last longer and everything else, but we have other issues. Now, having this probably pipe book should have been pressed out and had the bearing up against a flat surface, had a small hole for the shaft, and then wouldn't have had the problem, because it would have been a flat surface and we wouldn't have had this problem. So we have a problem, we're trying to solve it, and this is what my first solution is. I've glued it 360 degrees around, so it cannot, oil and stuff cannot go down around the edge here. So that's my fix for this at the present moment. I'm going to have to rebuild this motor. Now I've actually got everything polished up and everything, but I can't do anything until my bearings come in. I've got to go and pick them up tomorrow. Hopefully they've got them in stock. So basically, once that's done, I can start the rebuild, and we can go from there. But I've now cleaned everything up, so everything has got all the grease and everything off it, all nice and clean, all the gears, so they're all done and cleaned, and there's no major damage on the gears. I'm going to go into the potentiometer and check it out, make sure it's all good. So that's what's the next job I'm going to be doing. Oh, there we are. There it is. This is one of my prototypes. As you can see, it's clear. So try and see how quite thin it is. It's just a bit of flexible plastic I found. It's stretchable, so I made the hole is just, well, actually you can see, it's just slides over. I think I opened the other one up a little bit, obviously it's been opened up ever so slightly. But that's what I found, and I tried a whole lot of things, and everything was too thick and a pain to work with. This one I had to trim it and clean it, and to get it to, not this one was a little bit out of square, or out of round I should say. It was a bit out of not the centre, so I had to find that. So I'm going to find a way of putting the back hub back on. You've got to put it in the right position, and put the they've got a I'll find it again. It's in here. You've got this pressure washer, or expanding washer if you want to call it, or maybe a wave washer. So it's, let me get the hand on the right position here so you can see it. It's got a wave in it, so that's why the motor had no end float, and that sits on the very bottom. So you've got to try and assemble it and put pressure on it to then refold the edges back over to hold everything in position. So that's a challenge I'll have to deal with when I'm putting it back together again. I will, because now I've ground away everything to fit everything, because when they press this, they put bloody dimples. They pressed right into the edge here, and it's actually put dimples on it, so I had to grind away this flatter than what I really wanted to. So the machine, when it's punched this in, because they don't want you to replace the bearings, they want you to throw it away and buy another one. So not going to happen. It's going to be repaired, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a matter of fixing that problem. But this is it's not the motor's fault. It's YAESU's fault for putting oil at the top of this. Because the bearings have a small amount of grease in them, so that's not the problem. It was the oil flushing through the bearings which has caused the problem. So it's not the. This used to be the Japanese. Excuse me. This used to be the Japanese motor servo company. It was bought out by I can't remember the name of the company now. And so this is the new motor, and we just got to solve the problem. Right now, I'm going to leave it there for now. I've had enough of a ramble on this. We have a problem. I think I've remedied a large percentage of the problem, and we shall move forward. I shall catch you. I might upload this video. This is really only to explain what this is all about, so you don't really need to see the assembly and everything. This is just to show you what I'm going to be doing. That part's already been done. Reassembly is just reassembling a rotator, so I'm going to try and cut this video short without having to assemble everything again. But this is my solution for this at the present moment, and we may adapt something later on. Catch ya. Bye.